Hello, we're back with Meet on Mondays, episode 20. I'm Christina.
And I'm Jo.
And today we're coming to you from Australia. We thought we'd bring you the sounds and beauty of nature. Since we were in New Zealand last week, why not give you a little bit of Australia this week? Jo's accent has obviously gotten stronger being around her native
It may well have.
land.
It may well have.
Yeah.
Get your translator out.
Yeah, so today with episode 20, we want to talk about feedback, how to take it, how to frame it, because we're always going to get it as dancers. So I think Jo's going to start us with a little story, and we will go from there.
Before I get into a story, though, it is such a necessary part of dance, and I think people hope to avoid it. But the thing is, we only ever then have the internal experience of dance, and very much what we do is about sharing, and is about often about performing and about communicating. So it's really important to know how something's reading on the outside, which is where feedback comes into play. First thing I want to say about feedback is often it's difficult to take. Often we take things really personally, and often what we do is twist things around in our heads. Thank you to the Aussie parrots that are giving us background music here. For example, I was given some feedback when I was about 14. We had a guest teacher at my studio who told me that I didn't have great turnout. What I heard was, "You have such poor turnout, you should probably never turn your feet out ever again."
Don't turn out.
I translated that into, "I have terrible technique," and I carried that with me for very, 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 very many years. Not that I'm 100, I made that sound like I'm super old.
20.
But I carried that with me, and in actual fact, when I went on to have a private lesson much later on with an advanced ballet teacher, said there's nothing actually wrong with your turnout. I thought, now wow, I've carried this with me for so many years, but what I did was twist the information that I was given. What was an opportunity for me to get some feedback. And don't forget, there are no absolutes with that a lot of what we do is subjective. My turnout may not be a prima ballerina, perhaps that's what she was referring to. Perhaps it was her way of communicating to me that ballet wasn't potentially going to be a huge focus in the performance part of my career. But what I did was take it way too far and take it way out of context.
Yeah. I definitely have a similar story too, because I can identify with that of something I heard, and I won't get into the whole story, but a teacher said to me that I had for an entire year, "You are athletic. You have an athletic build." It was like she didn't say anything about my dancing, so I thought I should totally not dance. I should do something in fitness, although, as most of you know, I do love fitness, and we're now hearing a plane. It said, I do love fitness, but what I heard was, like you, I twisted it in my mind, which we often do, to make it something more than it was, when I had the opportunity to just go up to the teacher and say, "Hey, what did you mean by that?" Or what can I do to work on that? Is this something that you wanted to say as like maybe she was just using it as a compliment, or on I don't know. Maybe I could have just framed it in a way that was...
Maybe you could have just gotten more information.
Yes,
it would have given you.
Could have said just, what did you mean by that? And maybe she didn't think I was a horrible dancer and that I should quit. But isn't it interesting how, as dancers, because we have creative minds, we sometimes just blow things so out of proportion. And I think it's just...
We need to find a way to use our imagination
Yeah.
and our drama skills for good and not evil. And don't get me wrong, I don't take every bit of feedback that way.
No.
And I didn't either. But I know what it is to internally blow things out of proportion. Or, there can be some shame attached. If you get feedback that feels a little bit ouchy, that we take personally, don't forget that on the inside of our heads it will wreak havoc. And so if not the teacher that gave you feedback or the choreographer or the person that gave you feedback, I hope you have some mentors in your life, some people who have dance experience and dance advice to share with you, but people who love and support your dance journey, but also love and support you enough to keep it real with you.
Keep it real.
I have people in my life who will totally keep it real with me in my life and my dance life. And when I say keep it real, it's not just build me up with positive encouragement, although they do that. They'll also have the strength to give me really honest feedback when I need it. Like, that's not quite working, Jo, or that's not reading. Is there a way that you could dive into that a little bit more, both choreographically and as a dancer? Like, I have a habit of leading with my hips when I dance, and I've been given the very useful feedback of making sure that I keep my hips stacked under my shoulders. And there's a time for leading with the hips, but there's also, it doesn't need to be a way of dancing always. Right. And Tina, you were telling me before about when feedback is given in a more general note to the group.
Yes. So number one is, keep your mind at bay when you're getting any kind of feedback. And if you have a question about it, ask someone you trust, whether it's the person who's been giving it to you
trust is a big thing.
or someone that you trust. The other thing is, I think it's safe to assume that when you're in a class and someone gives feedback in general, assume it's for you. Like, take it on board as your responsibility. If someone says this arm is on 8, don't go, well, I have the arm on 8. I've got it already.
Or don't tune it out just because your name mightn't have been mentioned. And I
Right.
find that often in that group scenario, that's what tends to happen when you're not individually singled out. Although people then can sometimes take that too personally too. There's that strange balance of
Absolutely.
things here. But when a note is given to the group,
Take it.
be aware enough to check in with the note that was given, like the arm needs to be on 8, or be mindful that, we're dropping our heels on XYZ. Take a second, check in with your body. Am I dropping my heels on something?
Right.
Rather than going, oh my goodness, she must be singling or he must be singling me out. There's no need to take it to
Yes.
that level, but definitely check in.
Right.
Because,
No, go for it.
because every bit of feedback that you're going to get is information. It's information that you can use. It's information that sometimes you'll have to filter through because because this is a subjective art form that we're dealing with. Somebody might say, I don't like this choice or I don't like that choice, especially if you're a competitive dancer and you're still competing, or you won't be right for every job and every choreography, all those things. It doesn't mean that those are absolute pieces of information, but they are still pieces of information. And from there, you get to make choices to take on something, or to apply it, to dive into it, to explore that, or to say, well, I think that, and that for me, but I think I'll just let that little bit of information go. That's not a way I want to pursue my body as a dancer or my artistry as a dancer.
And I think another really huge important point to make is that 9 times out of 10, when people are willing to give you a correction or any feedback, it's only because they, 1, care, or 2, they believe that there's so much more in there that hasn't quite come out yet that you are capable of. So,
and I know
it's
for me,
totally that, yeah.
speaking 9 times out of 10, for me, when I'm getting feedback, we were both just working on convention in New Zealand, hence why we came to you from New Zealand last week. And when I am willing to give challenging feedback to a room, I only give that when I know that there's something more for them to get, or I see it just about in there, because I'm not going to ask you for something that I don't believe you have to give.
Right.
Nobody's going to ask a 9-year-old ballet beginner to
Be on point.
execute the most amazing arabesque ever. Like, realistically, the majority of the time, people who are giving you the feedback are giving you the feedback because they see a potential for growth in you. It's a vote for you rather than a vote to count against. And without a doubt, an invitation to grow, an invitation to be more of what you are and to take what you have and keep evolving it. And that's a positive thing. So getting a handle on processing feedback, leaving your ego aside and the reactions aside is definitely a really healthy thing.
Important in dance and in life.
Oh, that
Okay,
too.
There you go.
That too. Anyway, peace out
See
from
ya.
Australia.
Bye.
Good day in reverse.
Good night.